My wife said she was working late every Friday. Then my 8-year-old son accidentally told me the truth. For almost 11 years, I never had a reason to doubt my wife, Lauren. We had a good marriage, a beautiful 8-year-old son named Ethan, and a routine that worked for both of us. About 6 months ago, Lauren started staying late at work every Friday. She said her company had landed, a huge client, and everyone was putting in extra hours. I believed her without question. Every Friday, I'd order pizza, help Ethan with his homework, and tell him mom would be home soon. Looking back, I can't believe how badly I wanted to trust the person I loved. One Saturday morning, Ethan and I were making pancakes when he asked a question that made my stomach drop. "Dad, why don't you ever come to dinner with Mommy and Uncle Chris?" I laughed because I assumed he was talking about one of Lauren's co-workers. Then he looked confused and said, "The restaurant with the fish tank. Mommy says it's our little secret because you work too much." My heart started racing. Ethan had no idea what he was saying. As far as he knew, he was talking about a normal family outing. I didn't confront Lauren that day. Instead, I asked Ethan if he could show me the restaurant the next weekend. He was excited because he thought we'd all be going together. The following Friday, after Lauren texted that she'd be stuck at the office again, I drove Ethan toward the shopping district. The second we turned into the parking lot, he smiled and pointed at a seafood restaurant with a giant aquarium near the entrance. "That's the place," he said proudly. I parked across the street and waited. About 20 minutes later, Lauren pulled into the lot. A few minutes after that, a man in a black SUV parked beside her. Ethan looked through the windshield and smiled. "That's Uncle Chris," he said. Chris wasn't his uncle. He was Lauren's regional manager. I watched him hug my wife before they walked inside holding hands. I felt sick, but I kept my composure because Ethan was sitting beside me. After dropping Ethan off at my parents' house, I went back to the restaurant alone. From outside the window, I watched Lauren and Chris laughing over dinner. At one point, she reached across the table and slipped off her wedding ring before placing her hand on top of his. I took several photos, turned around, and walked back to my truck. I knew exactly what I'd seen. I just needed to know how long it had been happening. Over the next few weeks, I quietly gathered information. Phone records showed hundreds of late-night calls between them. Credit card statements revealed hotel charges on several of Lauren's so-called business trips. Then I found emails on our shared computer where she and Chris had discussed apartments they wanted to rent together once the divorce was over. The affair had been going on for nearly a year. The worst part wasn't the cheating. It was realizing they'd involved my son, without thinking twice about how it would affect him. When I finally confronted Lauren, she denied everything for less than 5 minutes. The moment I placed the restaurant photos and hotel receipts on the kitchen table, she stopped talking. Then she admitted the affair and claimed she'd been planning to tell me after the holidays because she didn't want to ruin Ethan's Christmas. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. She'd lied every single Friday for months, but somehow she wanted credit for waiting a few extra weeks. The divorce wasn't easy, but the evidence made the process much simpler than Lauren expected. She had hoped we'd settle quietly, but once the truth came out, even some of her own family members admitted she'd handled everything terribly. Chris wasn't nearly as committed as he'd claimed either. A few months after Lauren moved into his apartment, he ended the relationship because, according to a mutual friend, he didn't want the drama. It's been 3 years since everything happened. Ethan is doing well, Lauren and I successfully co-parent, and my life has finally settled down. Every now and then, I think back to that Saturday morning in the kitchen. My son wasn't trying to expose anyone. He simply assumed his dad already knew the truth. In the end, the biggest lie in my marriage wasn't uncovered by a private investigator or hidden phone records. It was uncovered by an innocent 8-year-old who didn't know he was supposed to keep a secret. If you were in my position, would you have confronted your spouse immediately or gathered proof before saying a word?